Hello, my Facebook viewers. I hope you are very well today. I have my friend Eileen and co-author with me today. So today is launch day of a beautiful new book, which is The Missing Piece, Coping with Grief. And in this book, which is really powerful because it has 9 different people from all across the world who have come together to share their stories with you about their grief stories, and also to give you tips on how to move forward with grief as well, especially this year with it being such a hectic 2020. And well, what can we say? What a year. There's some people that just want to go to bed and not get up now till 2021. And I don't blame I don't blame them. So I want to thank you, Eileen, for spending some time with me today to talk about the book, because it was really powerful project to do with you and the other people in the book as well. But even more powerful is where we're actually going to send the proceeds from launch day, because we want to do some good with the launch day. You know, we want to put hope in the world for the book, and we want to put hope in the world with the launch day royalties as well. So this is why I've got my friend Eileen to come and spend a few moments with me to tell me about the cause that she is working with and how the royalties from the book project are going to be donated to this cause to help along with the cause's mission. So I have a few questions from my friend Eileen, because I could try and say everything about the cause, but I'd probably get it all mixed up. So I thought the best thing to do is call the lady in herself and ask her the questions so she can tell you direct. So hello from California.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't technology amazing?
Yeah, it really is.
It really is. It's like we're
One of the upsides of this crazy 2020 is the fact that we figured out we can all connect in this way a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm in the other room, not thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
So my first question for you, my darling, is, Eileen, can you tell the viewers about the cause that you are working with and how the donations from the book and where they're going to be going and what the mission is of the cause?
Okay, you got it. So for those of you who don't know, I'm in the entertainment industry for 29 years. And I'm an actress, I'm a writer, I'm a producer. And because of my life experience and my physical challenges that I've had all my life, I became very aware of the fact that our industry was not including people with disabilities on screen in film and television and commercials. And so I became an advocate through the years, speaking up, because I didn't understand why we were never including people with disabilities in film and television.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a very long, career-long battle, and honestly a lifelong battle in my life. And because of my life experience and having been in and out of wheelchairs and facing my life many times in my life, I realized how cruel society still is to people with disabilities. And therefore, I realized that in my industry, we have the power to change that, because we do send out these movies and stories to the world, which basically tells the world how to think, who to include, who's cool, who's not. And so far, because of leaving out people with disabilities for so many years, there's too little knowledge of performers, people, humans with disabilities, and their real stories. They're often inaccurately portrayed by people who have no experience of it. And so we've been fighting that battle a lot of years. And as you see, if you consume television content at all or movies, you're starting to see that we are beginning to see people with disabilities included. And that is because of the work we've done through all these years. So years ago, in my battle, when I was still being completely kept out of the business, I started creating projects that would include people with disabilities, written by people who have real disabilities. I've been involved in the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge for 6 years. I've done 6 films, written 7, and that we put out into the world that gives people with disabilities the opportunity to write, produce, act, and be seen on screen, so that it gives them experience, credit, and exposure. So dearest human in my life, Carmen Argenziano, who unfortunately passed away in 2019 quite rapidly and unexpectedly. When he got to the point where he knew that he was possibly going to leave us, he said to me, Eileen, his nickname for me, Eileen, um, please don't quit. Please don't give up this battle. Please keep going. Keep making your films. And when he was passing away, he said, don't let people put money into nonsense like flowers or whatever for my memorial. Have them put it into your films for people with disabilities. So we did that when he passed away, and we got enough donations that would have gone to flowers to make one more short film that included people with disabilities for the film challenge that year. So we did this film, Space Junk, with Paul and Billy Ford, some of my favorite people, my friend Joe Toronto, who has a spinal cord injury like mine, and we just had such a brilliant team. Brock Wademan, who I've been mentoring since he's a kid. He's a kid with spina bifida who is learning directing and producing. And so we had so many wonderful people with disabilities on that film and put it out into the world. Since then, we've done 2 more. We always raise as much money as we can, and then we make another film. And no one gets paid. Everyone donates their time, and we put more films out into the world. But it still costs money to make films, and it costs money to put them into the festivals. And it costs money for props and camera equipment and all those things, and sound and all that.
Yeah.
So what we hope is to raise enough money to actually go to a feature film now, because we've done so many shorts, and we have 2 more that are in post right now. One of them is going to be in the Anchorage Film Festival right after this Thanksgiving holiday for us, and so its premiere will be in the Anchorage Film Festival, which is really interesting because I was actually born in Anchorage, so it kind of feels like it's all full circle. And you'll see at the end of all our films that we put in memory of or in honor of Carmen, because he was the first, name actor in our industry who strongly supported what I was doing and was willing to put his face up there. And he was in a lot of our films with us. We could talk him into helping on so many projects. And so for the 14 years that I knew him, that he was in my life, he was so supportive of the work we were doing. And we all miss him tremendously. He was such an amazing human being who did so much good in this world. He was so supportive of people and welcoming of everyone, and so supportive of the work I was doing, which helped me keep going. And so in honor of him,
And his legacy, basically.
his legacy, yes, Kate has so generously offered to put the proceeds of the book into another one of our projects, and to help our cause to further put people with disabilities on screen and out there into the world, so they can see what we're capable of, so that they can see how we can write and produce and create, and how we can move audiences, and why we should be included in the big studio features and TV shows, so that we, people with disabilities, can also make a living in our industry, which is only fair and right, and will then help create a more inclusive society out there. Because when people get to know stories of people like me and others that I work with, Tobias Forrest and Austin Basis, we're on this film that's going out now called Dead End Drive. When you see the work that we're capable of, then you can no longer keep us out of the game. And in my opinion, people with disabilities who've been the most challenged, who've struggled the most through life, we have a lot to offer this world, especially in times when the world is struggling. We are survivors, we are overcomers, we are creative thinkers, we have depth, we have empathy, we have compassion, we have all that to bring to the table, and we are creative thinkers because we've had to survive our lives. And I think the whole world is going to benefit.
Absolutely.
Abilities are included.
Absolutely. With the book, it's like a 3-way helping way, because it helped us to write that about our journey. Then it's going to help the reader who's in that experience right now, because there is a lot of people who are experiencing grief. There is, this is an emotional place where everybody on the planet can actually connect, because we all experience grief at some point in our
Yeah.
lives. So it's a freeway helper because it helped us to write the book. It will help
Mhm.
the readers to read the book, and the proceeds will then go on into the cause and help other people with their dreams as well, and their
Exactly.
messages and their stories. So how could I refuse not to do this? You
It
know,
was a cool offer from you and really generous, and the thing is, yeah, this book, it's just the timing of it all. I always feel like there's divine intervention, and throughout all of my life, I look back on all the challenges of my life, which you can read about in the book.
mhm,
And I mean, we touched briefly on it, but a lot of grief and loss throughout life, and life doesn't seem to always work out the way we plan. As a matter of fact, it seems to never work out the way we plan.
true.
And things that, we grow up in the world thinking things are so by the book, black and white. If you do this, then this will happen. If we have our opinions of what we think is right and wrong. And, we don't always come into the world with a fully open mind. And what happens when you lose someone you really love, or you go through a tremendous amount of loss and grief, you are forced to see other points of view, other perspectives, other possibilities, because life doesn't turn out the way we planned.
No.
And usually, we find out God has a bigger plan for us. And sometimes even the worst things
Yeah.
that happen to us, we realize, looking back on our lives, that perhaps it was a gift or a blessing, or
Yeah.
meant to spin us in another direction and send us in a way that we never thought was an option, because we didn't think that it was right or possible, or life sends us in different directions.
You either go into reasoning or you get crushed. So you
Yeah,
find
yeah, yeah,
reasoning to all these experiences, or it
yeah.
crushes you. So your mind has to go
Yes.
into a reasoning perspective. It's like, right, I have to find the reason why. Otherwise, if I don't, I will just fall into that black hole of depression
Yeah,
in the morning.
yeah,
That will be it. It will just suck me in. So rather than doing that, I have to go from a reasoning perspective and find
yeah.
reasoning why this happened and have an explanation of why this happened.
And make sense of it, make peace with it, and that it demands we open our minds. And this is another reason why I think it's so important to include people with all kinds of disabilities. And I know
Mhm.
you're dealing with a granddaughter with
Yeah.
autism, and
Mhm.
like, there are a lot of people who say autism is not at all a disability, but in fact a different way of thinking,
Yeah.
which it's a sort of a known thing that people with autism are exceptionally creative problem solvers. And
Yeah.
so for us to get more stories out into the world of people with all differences, then we start to realize that these are perhaps just differences, and the perspective of somebody who's had the kind of life challenges that I've had, that you've had, Kate. We have different ways of looking at things,
Yeah.
because we've had to survive. And we are survivors and overcomers. And I think the more we get stories out of more survivors and overcomers, I think it's going to help the human race. I really do believe it's going to help humanity elevate again. And we now know that approximately 20% of the population of the world has some form of disability, even if it's a hidden one, cancers, or lung issues, or heart problems that we can't always see,
Yeah.
but nevertheless alters the functioning of that human being's body and life. There's so much to be learned from people who have not had it easy.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn. And
Yeah.
so putting our stories out there is such a powerful thing. And you do that all the time with your books, The Missing Piece.
Mhm.
The power of sharing our stories to help other people.
Yeah,
It's just
people think their
life changing.
stories, they think their stories are so weak. They're like, well, what have I got so special about me? What could I share with the world? Well, you'd be so surprised just sharing your entire life experiences, just like I have in these books, because then other
Mm-hmm.
people read them and connect with them and they go, wow, I'm
Yeah.
not the only person in the world that goes through this.
Mm-hmm.
And like on the subject on with having disabilities. It's like I have learnt this with my granddaughter, how the outside
Mhm.
world can be so judgmental because they look at her and they're like, oh, well, she looks like an ordinary child. She's not an ordinary child. She has issues. She has autism. And when she has a meltdown in the middle of the shop, instantly the judgmental view upon people's faces of, oh, she's a naughty child. Why can't you sort her out? And
Yeah.
it sent my daughter home before in tears because she's had the dirty looks from people, she's had the huffing and puffing from people, and it's
Yeah.
just like you're doing is you're judging on face value. You're not judging what's the underlining problem here. You know, you've got no education on it. You're just judging on what you think is right.
Exactly. And I remember that as a child. I remember going through that as a child, and like people would torment me all the time. And then when I'd fight back, they'd judge me for being fiery or fighting back or getting mad. It's like, oh, so I'm just supposed to take your beat down. I'm supposed to take your humiliation and abuse and not fight back. Well, then I'd have to die. My spirit is fighting back because I'm trying to survive. And, you know, I just put out an article called Bring in the Game Changers. It went out to 130 countries in Strive magazine. You can Google it, Bring in the Game Changers, and read it, because I talk about that. You know, a lot of times people with disabilities, you know, we're judging them for being feisty, for being fiery, for being passionate. But imagine if you spent your entire life on the sidelines and no one lets you play.
Yeah.
And then people are picking on you, and you know, you get fiery and passionate because you want to be heard, because you have something to say, because you know how to help them, and you
Yeah.
want to help them. You know, you want to speak up and say, I know how to help you through this. I've been through it. You know, I know how to help you. And people judge you, like you're saying, for your passion, for your fire, for your you wanting to be heard, for wanting to live, you know. And thank God we're still fighting and passionate and fiery. Thank God we are, or we wouldn't be on the planet anymore. We would have died. You know, often when people judge me, I have to say, well, I'd like to see you survive my life.
Yeah,
Then you
absolutely.
tell me how passionate you'll be if you had to fight the battles I've had to fight all my life.
Yeah.
Then you tell me how I'm supposed to survive without having a fiery spirit. How? You
Yeah.
know, and I'm not a mean person. I'm not fiery in a bad way. I don't attack people or anything. It's not like that. But if you're putting my life on the line, or if you're getting in the way of making my health insurance, yeah, I get fired up. You know, keeping me out of work, you know, how I pay my medical bills, that's when you get fired up. But, you know, I'm also passionate because I feel like, you know, I think people have lost sight of the fact we're in this pursuit of perfection all the time, and this illusion of perfection that my industry does put out there in the world, and so does the advertising world. And, you know, here I am, I'm been in the business almost 30 years. I still can't even get in for commercial auditions because of my flaw. You know, I have a limp. But, you know, look at film and television. Why can't, you know, you be different in advertising? We're starting to get there, but it's like, you know what? The world is just wrong about this illusion of perfection, because no one's perfect. Everybody wants to
No.
put that out there, but what a pressure you put on yourself when you want to make the world think you're perfect. What pressure you put on all women when you put out into the world that they need to all be flawless. Like, that's unfair to all females everywhere. They all need to be able to feel accepted and whole and perfect exactly as they are. We all have a right to feel that we are exactly as we're supposed to be. And I strongly believe that, and yes, I believe in God, and I believe in our angels, and I believe that every one of us was put onto this earth for a reason. We
Yeah.
all have a purpose, and no other person has the right to get in the way of another's purpose. We should all be helping each other. We should all be elevating each other, accepting each other. And I'm not saying you have to accept someone who's being abusive to you. No, those are the people. No, you don't have to accept somebody who's harming you.
No,
But
I
we
did
should
for too
accept,
many years.
right? But we need to accept everyone for who they are and see what they have to bring to the game, because they might be holding the secrets to our life's puzzle. You know,
Yeah.
we all fit into each other's lives like a puzzle, and a puzzle doesn't work.
A missing piece. We
Yes.
all have a
And
missing
how
piece.
about 20% missing pieces? We can't have a functioning puzzle if we leave out 20% of the pieces. And life, society, we wonder why everything's going wrong in the world right now and why everything's gone haywire. Well, if you could look throughout all of history, we've left out the game changers. We've left out the people who've been through the most. We still continue to leave them out. You know, even Hitler killed all the people with disabilities first. And it was in the killing of all of them that he figured out how to mass murder people. And then we had this world war and the genocide of the Jewish people, and then 50 million people lost in a world war that all started with one baby with a disability. And I can't help but constantly ask the question, what if we cared about that first child? What if we'd said, no, you can't kill that kid?
Yeah.
What if that kid was our game changer, our world changer? And so it makes me emotional every time I think about it. It's like so many kids out there still being punished and tortured or kept indoors. And there's countries still that won't let those kids leave their homes or go to school because they're like a shame. And it's like, what if they're not a shame? What if they are the answer? What if that's your angel?
Yeah.
You know, what if that kid was sent into the world to save your soul or your life or your world? And those are the things we need to reconsider. So that's why we do the work we do. And that's why the cause of continuing to put out stories and creative work. And not every story is about disability, but every one we do includes people with disabilities, either in front of the camera, behind the camera, writing, or all of the above. And like the ones we've done for Easter Seals, sometimes we've had as many as 90% of the people working on the film being people with disabilities. So now they have credits, they have a piece of work they can send out into the world as a calling card to say, this is my work. And I'm so thrilled that even in 2020, we got 2 more of them done in post-production. One's in the festivals now, one's close, and we're gearing up for the next one. And we're collecting stories and we're collecting creatives. And we're constantly like preparing for when we get the funding to do the next one.
You've just completed a horror film, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one, Dead End Drive. That's going to. It's a psychological thriller. It's scary, but it's funny, scary. You know, sort of. And yeah, Toby wrote it, and it's just so much fun. It's so fun, and yet it's a scary. You know, I don't want to call it horror because we're not like, but
I've seen the trailer. I've seen the trailer, and I've seen the spooky part when you're waving from the doorstep. All that was going through my mind is he's going to go in there and she's going to eat him. That was what went in my head.
Maybe.
That's what went in my head as she was waving from the doorway. I was like, I wouldn't trust her. You're going to go in there and she's going to eat you for breakfast.
Yeah.
They're going to be a bunch of cannibals.
And the title is called Dead End Drive, so it's
yeah.
But it's so much fun, and it was such a great shoot, and small crew and small amount of money. And you know, when we had Carmen's memorial at the Actors Studio and all these wonderful creative people who knew him through the years came, it was the greatest tribute. They said that his memorial was better than Brando's. More people showed up and poured their hearts out because this man affected so many lives so positively.
Wow.
And he himself had a lot of challenges in life, and he struggled with things that he never did get to sort out before he passed away. But in his time here, he made so many people feel loved and welcome and supported in their work. And so because of, at the memorial, several people came up and said, you know, because I said, I don't know how I'm going to carry on without Carmen. His support, his wisdom, I don't know how I'm going to carry on without him. And I said in the memorial speech, I said, but then it occurred to me, I will carry on for him. I'll do the things that he wanted me to keep going. He said, Eileen, please take over the town, please take it over. And I was like, okay, Carmen, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to keep going. And
he's passed it on to you now. That's it. He's passed. It's like passing the baton on to you. That's it.
Yeah, and so a handful of the people at the studio came up after and said, I want to help you carry on what Carmen was helping you do. And so one of them, this wonderful man, David Zimmerman, like as we raise the money for our little projects, when we fall short, he helps us. He's a playwright from the Actors Studio. Carmen and I had helped him for years on one of his plays, and the writing and the rewriting and putting it up, and it was meant to go to theaters, and then Carmen passed away. And but he has said, you know, wherever I can help, you know, help you in whatever way Carmen was helping, I'm there. And
Yeah.
so we all keep carrying on in his honor, and we'll never forget his impact, and I will never forget his support. And I hope that as these things go out into the world, more names and celebrities and working people who don't necessarily have disabilities but have empathy and understanding that we are a valid part of the human race will also align themselves and jump into our films, and eventually we'll get to features and bigger features, and you wouldn't believe the projects I have planned. But we need more allies and more people jumping in to help us, because it's like if you take the community that is being bullied and rejected and left out, and they're the only ones speaking up for themselves, things don't change. But when people come in who aren't necessarily in the problem, but understand and empathize, they can help us blast open more doors. And we need more creatives and more artists and more name actors to jump in and say, hey, Eileen, I want to be in your films too. Let's what do you got? Let's make the next one, the bigger one. Then maybe we can take the little projects and blow them up and to get funding from the huge companies, and maybe the studios will start including people like me who've fought and worked hard for 30 years, in the TV series. Maybe they'll start including us, which they should. And I know they're starting to, but the more allies we have, the better. So I thank you for this platform, and I thank Carmen in the heavens. I know he's our guardian angel now, and here's his angels right beside me. See, he gave me those angels.
Well, I've got plenty of books. I've written plenty of books. So if you ever feel the need to act them out in your films, you can do. You can play me.
Okay, I'll do it. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just so grateful for all the love and support, and I'm grateful for him not being afraid to align himself with the community of us misfits, left out, disabled people. Like he never even made a distinction that we were any different from anyone else. We were included. He would come into a room of people that most people are afraid of and embrace and welcome them. And I just will always love him for that, and for his welcoming, loving, supportive spirit. And I'm grateful to you for also being so loving and welcoming and caring. And even when you asked me to write about grief, and I was like, how can I just lost him and my sister-in-law Alana, who both died of cancers within a few months of each other, and then I'm sitting here trying to write about it. And I remember at one point I said to you, I'm pouring down tears trying to write this, and you helped me get through that. And I just want to thank you for your kindness and your strength and your courage to keep writing and putting out your stories and your books. And thank you.
Believe me, I cry when I write mine. I absolutely bawl my eyes out when I write mine. What's in the book is like a 15-day diary of losing my grandson, and my mind and my emotions and my feelings and going through the journey. But all I knew at the time was I need to write this. I need to write this, because you're having it inside and containing it. I couldn't even imagine if I'd kept all that inside to this day, but I didn't. I felt the need to just cry, write,
let it out.
And it worked. And it was the stepping stones in the right way of healing. However, it wasn't until 4 years later that I brought the book out, because I had to go revisit that, to go through the editing of the manuscript. I had to revisit it all, and it affected me. So grief never goes away. It just changes form. You'll live with it forever. It just changes the way it like I said, it changes form through life, and you just learn to live with it, and you have different ways of means of steps that you take in order for you to cope easier with it. But it still gets to you. You still have those moments.
Somebody sent me an interview just the other day of Carmen at something that I was with him in 10 years ago at an event, and they did this interview, and somebody sent it to me, and it was just like the memories, even 10 years later. And even in the writing of it, and the reading of the book and everyone's experiences, it's like I've recently had quite a handful of friends who've lost parents, and and they're struggling, they're hurting. And one of them's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. It's been a year. And I was like, a year? I still cry over my mom. She died 30 years ago. My dad died what, 20, I don't even remember the years anymore. My dad died 25 years ago. My mom died 30 years ago. I still cry over them.
Yeah.
Anything comes up and reminds you, and like this interview that came in with Carmen, it's like it left me in tears, and
It's
missing him.
still there. It's still there. You still miss him. And, you
Always.
always.
Yeah.
And it's the
And
same.
your grandchild, like, for life, that'll be
Yeah.
someone I remember when my mom was dying and she kept talking about this child that she lost first. Her very first child she lost, like late pregnancy. And when she was dying, she was saying, I'll finally get to meet my other child. She had 8 kids after that one, but she still kept talking about the one she didn't get to know. And so,
Mm.
yeah.
When I
And
watched it, sorry, go ahead.
she couldn't wait to meet that child. And so I understand that you're always going to feel that, it's.
Yeah, it never goes away from you. And when I had just met you, I think you had finished writing and completing Take My Hand.
Oh
And
yeah, about the loss of a child. Yeah.
you sent me that film and you said, here, have a watch of it. Oh, I watched that, and what you brought to life was exactly what I just watched my daughter go through for the past year. So to
Oh,
watch
wow.
that, I'd watched my own daughter lose a child and grieve and go through all of that. So when I sat down to
Oh,
watch your
wow.
film, I was like, I was
Yeah.
like crying, texting you, saying, "Oh, it's so brilliant! You
Yeah.
played that so well," because I'd actually witnessed that for real.
Yeah. With your daughter.
Mm. So
Yeah.
I just watched the film and I was like, oh my gosh, you played that so amazing, because I
Mm.
had something that I could measure up to in real life. I
Right.
can connect it. And I was like, wow, where do you get that from, girl? You must like put your hand right down deep inside and just pull it up and go, wah, to the viewers.
All that life experience, all that loss I talk about in your book. If you're a trained actor, your training is about teaching you to hit those notes when you need to. And I've trained so hard for so many years at the Actors Studio for over 20 years now, and I've had some of the best teachers in the world, including Carmen, including Martin Landau, who was another great advocate of my work, Barbara Bain, Alan Miller. I've had such brilliant teachers and mentors, Catlin Adams, so many more of them, Salome Jans, Lou Antonio. They're all well-known, very accomplished performers, and they taught me how to put all this pain into my work. And I'm so
Feel it.
thrilled to know that it can move people and touch people, and to hear that story, that
Yeah,
moved
that
me like
was because I'd actually seen it in real life and
that. Yeah.
experienced it and witnessed it, and then watched you act this character out, even though you'd never had children before yourself and you'd never
Yeah.
been put in that predicament before, and then you acted
Yeah.
out that character. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, the connection. It was like ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, and I was actually working. I don't always share what I'm working with it, but I think in this case I will share with you that I had tried to have children year after year after year and went to extreme measures. And so I feel like I did lose children, and I've lost, but the hope of children, the dream of children, the all the extreme measures to try to have children. I've even tried to adopt children. You can't even do that in my situation as a person who has what they would consider unstable health and not a healthy spouse to do it with. And there's so many factors. People always think, oh, you can just adopt. No, you can't. It's not that easy, and it's really expensive too. And you can't just foster. There's so many things. And so losing children comes in so many forms. People who are trying to have babies, I know a lot of women who've tried so hard, and they might get pregnant and then lose a child and lose a child and lose another one. I'm so many miscarriages, and that's such a heartbreaking thing. And people that have children maybe don't always know how heartbreaking it is for those who really wanted them and couldn't have them. And so it's such a loss. It's such a loss. to have a dream of kids and a dream of grandkids and a big house full of kids, and you don't get to have that. There's so many forms of loss in our lives, so many
Yeah,
forms of loss.
exactly. There is so many forms of loss. So many people just place it towards grieving of a lost loved one, when really we grieve the mourning of a relationship ending.
Yeah.
You grieve the fact that you never had children. It was a loss. And
Yeah.
also, like in this book here, I didn't want people just to write about the people they'd lost, but there's also people in there that had lost pets.
Yeah.
Because pets leave a legacy. We all leave a
Yeah.
legacy. We all leave a
And
mark.
they give them love that they need and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
So it's
Yeah.
a range of stories. It's from people who have lost parents,
Yeah.
children, pets, but it's really everybody's different personal perspective of what they
Yeah.
put in place for
Yeah.
themselves to move
You,
forward.
you know that old saying, there's like an old saying called, or set, it goes like this, it's better to have loved and lost
They
than
never
never
loved
to
at
have loved
all.
at all. So when I was going through this amazing journey of, and I'm not going to go into too much, but it has a lot to do with the physical challenges, the cancers and all that stuff, that I had a major loss to my body. And when I was going through having to have this surgery and lose another part of me, I was so sad about the whole possibility of loss of children and all this stuff. And I talked to a few of my friends who are much older, much wiser, have kids, have grandkids, full families. And a couple of the women I reached out to and said, what would be worse, to have had kids and lost them, or to never have kids at all? I asked that. I needed to know, and they all suffered over that question, the few I asked, and they said, it would just be devastating. It would kill them, it would crush them to lose one of their kids. But at the same time, to have never had them at all, to have never had that experience, that child, that loss. And so they both came to the conclusion that it was better to have had the children, even, you know what I mean? Like, to have had them.
I think it's a connection of there's loss no matter what. So in a way you can connect. You've
Yeah.
some form of connection because you've
Yeah.
both lost. You've lost in a way.
Right. You
So
lost. And you said that, I think you said that to me when Carmen died, like, and then I think a few people said it to me, where that you were so lucky to have had him in your life as long as you did. And that's true. I was so lucky to have had him come into my life. I felt like, I got plenty of signs later that I felt like he had been sent by my parents, by my mom and dad, to guide me, to look after me for a while, to open up perspective and give me the support and wisdom that I needed to get to the next place and the next step and to keep going. Because interestingly enough, at the time that he came into my life, I was really close to giving up on this town and this industry and moving away to start something else somewhere else. And I was so sad about having to do that, because I don't give up. That's not, and he was like, you can't, he made me stay here. So he said, you cannot quit. You have too much talent, too much skill. He goes, I've worked with everyone in this industry. I know what I'm talking about. You cannot let them stop you. And then Martin Landau said the same thing to me before he died. You cannot let them stop you.
no.
And so I in that perspective, it's like, I'm so much better to have known him and to have learned from him and all that he added to the world, in my world, that then in this case, definitely better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
And now his legacy lies with you. So whatever you place into the world will be from his legacy onto you, and then your legacy into the world as well. And you can't give up anyway, because you know me now, so I won't ever let you give up.
I will never give up now. It's, I hate to say that we're too close to the other side of the game, the end of the game. We're not babies anymore. And, I've fought so hard for so long. I still have people say, why don't you quit and do something easier? Why don't you go get a Starbucks job so you can have health insurance? And I'm like, because that would crush my soul. And it's wrong. And I should be able to live my dreams just like everybody else,
You
And
need to
so,
keep on acting anyway to make me cry. In your,
what?
you need to carry on acting in your films so I can sit there and watch them and cry.
Yeah.
With my Yankee going.
I've been known for making people cry.
No,
That's for
but
sure.
in a good way. In a good
In a
way,
good
it
way.
shows that you are a brilliant actress.
Oh,
To
thank
actually have
you.
that effect upon people. I mean, that was,
Thank you.
I mean, that was my first time I really experienced watching you do a
Oh,
role. And then
yeah.
I watched your other parts afterwards. So when I watched that, that was my
Oh.
first encounter. I was like, whoa, what else has she done? I started watching all your
I
other
gotta
stuff.
send you some of my stories. I've got a few stories that make everyone cry too. I will have to send you some of those. Yeah.
Well, that is the power. When you place your power into there, your heart and soul, other people feel it. They feel it. So they can feel the words coming off the paper, or they can feel the words
Yeah.
on the screen, and they can feel it. So if anybody wanted to get a hold of you, my darling, how could they get in touch with you?
I have a website, eileengrubba.com, EILEENGRUBBA.com, and on there's a contact form. Also, I'm on Instagram, Eileen Grubba, and I have a professional Facebook page. Don't go to the personal one, please. It's already full, but the professional one has a little blue check mark. Also, Eileen Grubba, and I'm on Twitter as Eileen Grubba. So EILEENGRUBBA on all those things. So if someone wants to reach out, they certainly can. I answer as many as I can and reasonably do as much as I can to respond to everybody, but I don't keep up with all of it all the time, but I try.
Unless she's got octopus arms, where she's like this, trying to do it all. Well, thank you so much for taking the
You're
time
so
out of your
welcome.
morning for this. The book
So
that we
welcome.
are talking about mainly is The Missing Piece in Coping with Grief, which you can purchase from Amazon. If you follow the link up above, it will take you straight over there. Look, she has her print-proof copy. I have my print-proof copy. Look, so yeah, please do purchase it, because it's not about us in this book, it's about you. It's about helping you, connecting with you, and then helping other people as well. So you'll be doing a great benefit to the world.
It's a great Christmas gift,
Yeah,
especially to anyone who's had any kind of loss in
yeah,
2020, which we know is a lot of people. So if you're looking for a gift that will help people, really help people, this is the gift to give people for Christmas this year, I
I
think.
totally agree. And having a few on standby, you know, to like just give to your friends when they need it, because if it helps you, it will help somebody else. So that's what it's all about, is helping people. That is the mission of this book. We want to help as many people as we possibly can with it.
Exactly.
So thank you so much
You're
for watching us. Thank you so much for watching us on this interview.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And we'll speak to you very soon.
Okay.
Bye.